You're listening to the Journey Podcast. What insights await as we explore stress and overwhelm, uncovering practical tools to thrive despite life's challenges? Stay tuned for today's episode. This episode contains strong language and listener discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we tackle the ever-relevant issues of stress and overwhelm, welcoming insights from our guest who blends HeartMath techniques with Martha Beck's Wayfinder life coaching. We delve into innovative strategies that promise not just to manage stress, but to transform our relationship with it. By learning to listen to our hearts and minds with equal care, we're introduced to methods that ground us in the present, helping us navigate life's storms with greater ease and resilience. Emma O'Brien is a certified HeartMath coach and a Martha Beck Wayfinder trained life coach. She blends compassionate, intuitive, and practical coaching skills with her extensive expertise in helping her clients shift their mindsets and change their lives for the better. She helps folks get unstuck, recover from life burnout, overcome overwhelm, and reignite their passion and purpose. Alongside her coaching practice, Emma brings 2 decades of entrepreneurial expertise to the table. She's an award-winning dog photographer, and having run successful photography studios in both the UK and South Africa, she's adept at helping her clients with small business marketing and strategy. Here is my interview with Emma O'Brien. Hi, Emma. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because stress and overwhelm is such an important topic for today's world. I really feel like we need to talk about this more. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It's lovely to be here. And I'm also really excited for our conversation.
Yeah, so needed. And I'm so glad that you're here to talk about that today. So for starters, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and sort of your story and what happened to you and where you've come from to do what you do today?
Yeah, so I'm a certified HeartMath coach and I'm a Wayfinder Martha Beck trained coach. And I'm in the process of transitioning really out of a full-time photography business, which I've been doing for 20 years, into a full-time coaching business. And one of the reasons for moving into the coaching and coaching in the area that I share with burnout and stress, and also the HeartMath, which is such a powerful emotional regulation tool. So something I'm very enthusiastic about, really comes out of my own journey of burnout and my own journey of being coached at the same time as well. So I've been, like I said, a photographer for 2 decades. And in 2016, I absolutely hit a wall and landed in a heap on the floor of absolute catastrophic burnout. And I'd been working constantly for 10 and a bit years and never taking a break. And I had equated being successful with being busy. And I also, I'm a self-employed entrepreneur. And I was also stuck in the mindset of if I don't work, I don't get paid. So I never allowed myself to take a break. I was in proper workaholic mode. And it caught up with me because you can't continually rinse yourself dry all the time. You can't. And I literally, if I look back on it, I can see how it was building. And I'd got to the stage where I was completely fed up with what I was doing. I was not in touch with my creativity at all. And it was actually at that point in time, so it was the end of 2015, I came across a business coach who also happened to have been a photographer and had transitioned businesses. And I started working with her, and we really completely overhauled my photography business. And I think it really shone a light on, what the hell have I been doing all this time? And I was working myself silly and not really earning any money, which is just ridiculous. And in the process of making the changes in the business, I think that was what just tipped me into absolute overwhelm and catastrophic burnout, because it was such a big change that we made. I think it was just a huge shock to my system. And I went from being functioning, normally, let's say, or with normally with air quotes, to lying in a heap on the floor crying and not really knowing why. And it was an absolute low point for me. I mean, I think if I think about it, compared to getting divorced, the burnout was worse. And it was being coached and making the huge changes I made to my business, which it was, there was a big mess. And then I managed to get out of the big mess. And we ended up with the changes we implemented. I ended up with a business that tripled in income and halved in the client workload, which of course then freed up a lot more time. And it changed my relationship with time. And it took me, don't get me wrong, it took me a while to get out of that I have to be working all the time mode. I think it's so common for entrepreneurs who get into survival mode, and it's a cycle you can get very, very stuck in. It's not healthy. And I think it's an opportunity for anybody listening, if you can relate to that, to really think about, why am I doing this? Because if you are always working and you can't actually go on holiday or spend time with the people that are important, what the hell is the point?
Yeah, well said. I'm nodding my head as I'm listening to you, because this is a very familiar song. And I think it's probably familiar to listeners who run their own businesses and who are entrepreneurs, especially also if you're female or you are the caregiver in your household. That adds a lot of stress. And I kind of, when you said I hit a wall and I was in a heap on the floor, I think this is sort of the thing that really gets me, is how the stress kind of sneaks up on you, because
yes,
you work, and you're like, no, I'm coping. And all of a sudden you hit this wall. And so do you want to maybe talk a little bit about what that felt like for you now, looking back, because now you kind of had the wisdom from being here today. What was in the run-up of your burnout that kind of gave you little clues that may have been coming? Was there anything that you noticed?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm very cognizant of it now, because so I know the signals. So for me, it is when I get to the point with customers where I want to tell them to go in a different direction, but perhaps not so politely. And when I'm just sitting and thinking, I just don't care actually about this at all. I think it's the feeling, the spiraling overwhelm, feeling very anxious, feeling very agitated, and just feeling generally very unhappy and out of sorts. And I think anxiety is one of those things that often accompanies burnout. And for me, when I start to feel these signals kicking in, I have a moment and I'm like, okay, I need to change some things here. And I need to start saying no to some things, and I need to get some help with some things. Often it's very interesting. When I had my first episode of burnout, I had to cancel some photo shoots, because you'll enjoy this, Petra. Not only was I lying in a heap on the floor crying, I was then collecting myself up, wiping myself down, and still trying to go to work through all of it. Let's hold it all together, because I'd given myself and created an extremely busy, out of control schedule, because I told myself that was what it meant to be successful. Other people also told me that as well. We're reinforced by people, especially if you're self-employed. Ooh, you're lucky to have work. Some people don't have work. Ooh, you're lucky to be so busy. Some people aren't that lucky. And I would say to any entrepreneur who's so busy they don't have time to think, it's time to have a look at how your business is running and perhaps reevaluate your pricing and reevaluate how you're doing things. And so those signals for me very much kind of ring out, and I know I need to switch something out. Interestingly, 2023 was a year for me of setting boundaries and saying no. And I started to really feel into helpful by doing the Martha Beck course. She's got an exercise called the Body Compass, which really gets you into your internal state of yes and no, thank you. And I was really starting to listen to that. And I was thinking, there's things here that I'm doing that my body is going, we don't want to be doing this. Could we not, please? And I had to be very strong with myself and start turning things down. It's a mindset shift of turning it down and knowing that in turning this down, I'm making space for something better. I'm making space to have a day off. How about that? And magical. And it's so interesting. So I've been very mindful of these little signals coming in, and it's knowing what your triggers are, because they stack up. Like you've said, it sneaks up on you. And I know with hindsight, when I'm starting to feel very fed up, agitated, and ready to be rude to people, I need to have a reevaluate of what the hell is going on.
Yeah. And it's interesting because that freeing up space part that you're talking about, I think for a lot of people, and I mean, I mostly work with women. So for a lot of women, that comes with a lot of guilt and anxiety. And that is one thing that you really have to let go of that before you can move through that. And that takes a lot of time, because there is guilt when we put ourselves first. There's anxiety around losing income when we're turning down clients or jobs. So how do you cope with when those feelings come up that you are letting something go that might potentially bring you more income, more perceived safety? How do you cope with those feelings, and how do you help your clients cope with that?
So I think there's a big thing for me is looking at it. Is this going to make me feel good? Am I going to enjoy it? Is it worth my resentment and unhappiness to do this? Do I want to put myself through something I really don't want to be doing? So in order to have that choice, one has to have a business set up where there's a financial buffer, I think. So I'm saying, if anybody listening, let's just put this into context here. I have worked very hard to make sure I have a buffer in savings account so that I can turn stuff down that I don't want to do. I know from being in the position when in 2015, 2016, as I got into this burnout, I was not in that position. I had to take every single job that came my way, whether I wanted to or not. And it made me very unhappy. So I promised myself I wouldn't continue that, but it has been a case of making sure there's money going into a savings account every month. So I know I've got that buffer there, and that gives me that security so I don't have the anxiety. The other thing I've done is if there's jobs that I look at, and I'm talking about the photography business really here, is if the stuff that I look at and think, I don't really want to do that, but I could, I will have a look at it and think, well, how much money do I need to earn from that to make it worth my while that I can go and smile and have a nice time? And if the client goes for it, great. If they don't, that's fine. And it's amazing when you almost have that take it or leave it attitude, people usually take it.
Oh, I like that. It does require a bit of a shift in mindset from the entrepreneur's point of view, I think, because we tend to undervalue ourselves a lot. And to actually come up with something that makes you happy. So what price point would make you happy? I find that really interesting, because there are a lot of things where your body gives you clues already that it doesn't want to be doing that. Too many meetings, too long into the night, too many weekends spent on the business, right? And there usually is some kind of reaction inside of you that's, I really don't want to do that. So really tuning in and listening to that and respecting that to try and find a bit of more of a balance in what you're doing. Yeah. Now, many people are in this coping mode. They understand that they're stressed. For a lot of people, it is, like you said, a necessity. They may not have the savings to be able to choose. And if there are children also, or you have to put a roof over your head, there are a lot of complicated situations. But what kind of effects did you notice that the stress had on you? I mean, you mentioned that you were becoming frustrated or short with clients. Did you notice anything else that happened to you? I mean, physically, I know there are a lot of things that can happen when people are stressed, mentally, emotionally. How did that journey go for you?
So the sleeping was a big one of being struggling with sleeping. I tend to get if I'm anxious, I tend to get very in my head and I will ruminate. So a lot of kind of ruminating, negative, worrying thoughts. And we know what ruminating, negative, worrying thoughts do is they reach back and collect up all of the other ones that are totally unrelated. So when you're worrying about one thing, all of a sudden you're worrying about things that happened 10 years ago. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. So it's one of those things and that is a difficult cycle to break. So it's getting out of that. Yeah, I think, that you kind of gut stuff digestive stuff is often a problem with stress. I notice that if I'm stressed and just feeling very uncomfortable, out of sorts and agitated and not able to relax, not able to sit down, not able to kind of connect with your joy either. I think it's difficult to connect with anything joyful and fun and light and be in the moment. It's impossible to be present when you're stressed because usually we're in the future somewhere or in the past somewhere. So lots of things. And as I say, it was a very difficult time in my life. And I say, you will enjoy this. As I say, I was continuing to work and then I put my back out. It's like the universe went, do you know what? We've given you enough signals for you to stop and you're still trying to continue on. So we're just going to make you lie down.
Isn't that so interesting?
Mm-hmm.
I hear that from so many people that then they had some physical challenge and injury and illness. And through that, it became clear how much they had actually been going against their own alignment, their own health, their own energy. But interesting that it usually takes something like that for us to sit down and actually think about that. Yeah, I broke my foot and then the same thing happened. So I can relate to that. And that's exactly the universe saying, okay, if you're not going to listen, we will find a way that you will. So
absolutely.
Very, very interesting. Now, the cycle is obviously very difficult to break. It is sometimes situationally so that you are not able to step out of it fully. But what can we do to help ourselves when we are stressed? You found HeartMath, for example, and what else did you find that helped you cope with the stress and also find a better balance between what you're doing and how much energy you're expending on everything?
Yeah, I think that having some sort of a means of emotionally regulating is really important because it puts you back in control. If you know, I do this tool and I can calm this stress response down. So it was understanding a little bit more what the internal stress response was and kind of how it was feeling and learning to calm it down. And it was, I say it was a very difficult period of time because we made a load of changes and I was sort of coming to from my burnout and my sore back. And I was working with my coach and I literally had 6 weeks with no client bookings because we adjusted my pricing. And that was, I just had to white knuckle that. But having a coach to help me through it was really powerful. If I hadn't have had a coach to help me through it, I would have reverted back to my existing pricing and I would have continued the cycle. So it's having something or somebody that can support you out of it. I think it's also, examples of like conversations we're having here, that knowing it is possible for something else. And you talked about situational stressors, and I think that is a problem. If it's possible to identify what they are and remove them, and I know that's easier said than done if it's a relationship or something like that, but I think there are often times where you have a choice with it and it might be a difficult choice, but sometimes we have to make that that choice. I think the saying no and putting boundaries down, often we end up overwhelmed, burnt out, and stressed because we're trying to do too many things. And if you've got, I think for people who've got multiple children and things like that, that you can't, outsource the child anywhere necessarily, is who could help you? Can you be brave enough to ask for some help from somebody? Can you outsource some of your tasks that you have to do just to free up a bit of room in that schedule to reduce all those stresses? Because being overwhelmed will have you in a stress response all of the time. And if you can reduce that overwhelm, that's very, very powerful. Very powerful.
Those are some really good points. And although you might not be able to change entirely what is happening, you can ask for help. You may be able to bring on someone who helps you with the household, with the children, and hopefully get yourself sorted in that way a little bit better. So yeah, those are some great tips. Now, do you want to share with us a bit about HeartMath maybe? I'm very curious what that is, what it does, and how do you implement that when you are working for yourself, with your clients? How does that come into being stressed?
So HeartMath is essentially tapping the heart's innate intelligence and using it to, live better, feel better, which I think is really powerful. And there's quite a lot of research they've done at the HeartMath Institute that when you are able to tap into a positive heart feeling like gratitude or joy or love, we calm that autonomic nervous system down. And we get our heart rhythms into more coherence. And when our heart rhythms are more coherent, the whole biological earthly vehicle system becomes more coherent and works better. We feel calmer. And when we feel calmer and we're not in a constant reactive state, you can think far more clearly. You can make better decisions. It's like this beautiful ripple effect from just calming that nervous system. And HeartMath is a series of techniques, but essentially the first one is just slowing your breathing down. Simple as that. And then starting to work on generating a positive feeling. And when you train yourself to do this, and it does take a bit of work, it's like meditating. If anyone hasn't meditated, it's a very difficult skill to master. And you'll just want to get up the whole time. It's miserable. And I think that's the first time I was meditating. I was thinking, how is this peaceful for people? It's awful. But as you get into it, you start to see the benefits. So HeartMath is the same. And literally, it's about, we can practice slowing our breathing down at any time. You don't need to be somewhere specific for it. And it's really tapping that, calming that physical stress response down and getting your heartbeat slowed down. And then it just slows the cortisol production and it gets your amygdala switched off. So you're not constantly in a reactive fight or flight mode. It's a technique that it's really, really wonderful. Really wonderful.
I like things that clients can also do at home, right? So it's something that you can practice in a coaching session and you can become familiar with it, but you can also do that, like you said, anytime. If you're in the car and you're feeling the stress from traffic, or you're at home, you had some bad news or something, you can use those techniques on yourself really anytime. So I love those kind of approaches that really are available to you anytime. And there are a lot of physical benefits too when people actually practice the HeartMath techniques. So I think in what you were talking about before, that the gut issues, the sleep issues, and also emotionally, the anxiety that you often feel when you are stressed, those are a lot of things that can be worked on with these kind of approaches. So yeah, very beneficial. I'm glad that you incorporate those into your coaching sessions. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And so you have been working with clients who transitioned out of the photography business. And what is it that you're so passionate about in this work that you're doing now? Has this come from your own burnout experience, or what is it that really lights you up when you're coaching clients and working on these techniques?
So I think I work with a lot of people who are overwhelmed and people who are stuck. And I know from having been stuck, it's a really unpleasant state to be in. And, I've learned from my own experience and my own professional training how to not be stuck anymore. And I wouldn't wish the experience I had on anybody. It was awful, but it's kind of shaped who I'm becoming. And I think often out of our darkest experiences comes the most wisdom that we have that we can share with other people. So it's helping people feel better, helping people do better, helping people go after a life that lights them up. I think so many people are walking around just kind of getting up, going to work, going to sleep and repeating. And there's no joy there. There's no purpose there. And this is why people are so terribly unhappy. And my ethos really is when we feel better, we do better, and we do better for ourselves, but we do better for everybody around us. And it really does ripple out. We need more of that in this planet that we're on. We need more of that. There's a really great phrase from the HeartMath Institute, which is a question you can ask yourself of what are you feeding the field? So the theory is that everybody's hearts have an electromagnetic field that actually is bigger than our bodies. And we're all bumping into each other's electromagnetic fields. And you could call that vibes, which makes perfect sense to me. You get a bad vibe from someone, that's because they're completely incoherent and they're probably agitated and giving something off that you're like, no, thanks. And if we're able to hold space for ourselves, we're able to also hold space for other people. And this is what we need. We need to be putting better energy out. We've got a lot of bad energy happening, and we can all be responsible for our own energetic emissions, if you like. And I think if there's some great evidence, I don't know if you've come across it, that it was the name totally escapes me now, the meditation where you have a mantra that you use. It'll come back to me now. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. I'm completely blank. They did some surveys about crime rates in places where there were lots of people meditating, and they saw a drop in crime rates in places where people in communities were collectively meditating. It makes a difference. And for me, it's about being able to help people live better, feel better, do better, and hopefully have some sort of collective impact with that work as well.
Yeah, that is beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that. And it does go to remind us that maybe we feel really overwhelmed when we look at the world today and there's so much happening, but we can come back to ourselves, to our center, and we can work on that, and we can work on our own center, our own alignment. And that will make a ripple effect, like you said, out into the world. So yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Now, you work with clients and you offer different kind of services. So would you like to go over some of the programs and services that you offer so that our listeners can get an idea of how they could work with you or how they could connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I offer one-on-one private coaching at the moment, and I've got various kind of time frame packages. So it's all on my website, which is emmaobryancoach.com. So you can have a look on the coaching page there. I'm also going to be launching a HeartMath specific coaching program shortly. So if this has piqued your interest, please just pop me an email and I can tell you a bit more about that. And for anybody who would like to dip a toe in, I've got a free 7 ways to get out of overwhelm online workshop. So that's at emmaobryancoach.com/stuck.
Amazing. And Emma also has her own podcast called Lemons and Pineapples. So you can listen in from your favorite podcast provider. And we, of course, will be linking to all of Emma's offerings in the show notes as well. So be sure to check there for her one-on-one services, for the freebie that she just mentioned, for her upcoming courses, and how you can listen to her episodes. Well, this has been another incredible episode, and I really hope our listeners have enjoyed our journey into stress and overwhelm. Even though this is a difficult topic, I think it's important we talk about that and we talk about ways that we can actually approach stress and overwhelm, manage it, and maybe even resolve it. So it has been fantastic chatting with you on the podcast, Emma. Thank you so much for coming on today, speaking to us and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been really lovely to be here.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure, and I do hope we get to do this again. So thank you so very much, and take care, Emma. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Journey on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejourney.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.